it's Aja. Today, as you can see by the title, I'm coming at you with a video about how I learned Korean. So about once a year-ish, I make a video, part of a series on my channel called Black Girl Speaks Korean. Then I put a number after it. 1, 2, 3. I'll try it and like link it or put it in the eye or something up here, playlist, so you guys can see that I occasionally make videos about myself speaking Korean, and then I speak Korean in those videos, and I put like subtitles so that people who speak English can also understand what I'm saying, and usually tell like a quirky little story or whatever. Anyways, right after I post those videos, I usually get comments either on my channel, or more often I actually get like personal messages like through my Facebook or in, you know, Instagram messages or whatever, like, because for some reason people feel more comfortable commenting like one-on-one when no one else can read their comments. So I usually get people asking me, you know, how did you learn Korean? And I'm usually really hesitant to make a video about how I learned Korean because it makes me feel like a fraud. Because somehow in those like once a year videos, I'm able to convince you guys that I am fluent in Korean, that I speak Korean as well as I speak English, and it's just, it's not true. But since I can speak Korean well enough to make you think that I am fluent, I'm gonna at least tell you guys how you too can speak a language well enough to scam people on the internet. So, first things first, this one's very specific to Korean, because if you want to learn a language that it has the same shared alphabet as your home language, or like similar enough, like Spanish. Spanish has like 2 extra letters in the alphabet, but like basically A is A, B is B. If you want to learn a language with the same alphabet, then you don't need this step. But if you want to learn a language like Korean or Japanese, where the alphabet is totally different, then you want to start there. Fortunately, with Korean, the alphabet is phonetic. So that means I just associate this letter with this sound every time I see it. It's always, this letter is always going to make this sound. Japanese is kind of like that and kind of not, because Japanese has 3 different types of writing. There is hiragana, katakana, and kanji, and 2 of those are phonetic and 1 of them is not. And don't ask me which is which, because I haven't studied Japanese for like 5 years, so I couldn't tell you. But what I can tell you is that you gotta learn the alphabet first, because you don't want to be one of those people who knows like, you know, 10 phrases or basic, you know, conversational language, but you can't read. You kind of need to read. So how I personally learned to read, or to, you know, learn the alphabet in Korean, was I watched videos. It was very important not to try to learn Hangul through a book, because they compare sounds that don't actually sound alike. For example, if you're an English speaker, you go out and buy a book that teaches you how to learn Hangul, it's gonna give you the lir, right? It's gonna tell you that that sounds like an L or an R. And it won't tell you which one, but it always sounds like somewhere in between. And you kind of gotta guess how far in between it sounds, right? Or you can watch a video on the internet that will tell you lir, lir. In this situation it sounds like l, in this situation it sounds like r, but it never ever ever sounds like r, because they don't have that sound in Korean. You know what I'm saying? Or like, for example, there is shiat and sangshia. Okay, one of those sounds like it's kind of like an aspirated S, right? S with a little after it, right? And the other one sounds like right? It's like a strong S, right? But if you read that in a book and they tell you there's soft S, strong S, you gonna know what it sounds like? Me neither, Fred. Okay, so videos are very important. I personally learned Hangul by listening to Mina O, or I think her name on YouTube might be Professor O. I'm not really sure. I will try to link the videos down below, but basically watched her videos, learned Hangul. Woohoo! Next step. So the next step for me personally, myself, that means not everyone will need to do this, but I was trying to teach myself Korean before I ever got in a classroom. So my next step was 2 different learning applications, I guess you could call them, programs. One was Pimsleur and the other was Rosetta Stone, and I used them at the same time. I would literally like spend like 30 minutes on one, an hour on the other. Now at first Rosetta Stone's gonna feel like a complete waste of your time. Why? Because they're gonna teach you things like the girl runs, the boy runs, the dog runs. And when are you ever going to say that in conversation? Never. But what you don't realize is that in context, they're using context to teach you words that you are gonna use. Like, don't you think that ever in your life you're gonna need to know the word run and girl, right? Or boy or dog. Like, you probably are gonna need to know those words separate from this context, but they're teaching you it in a simple way that you can understand it, and you associate each of these words with a picture, with an image, and not with the English version of that word. And that's really important, because every time you want to say the dog runs, every time I want to say keru kayo, I don't want to have to think first, what's the word for dog? What's the word for run? I don't want to think that. I want to just directly go from the image in my head to words. And that's why Rosetta Stone was really helpful. I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't used the program Pimsleur since I originally used it. That was in like 2013. So I don't remember what that program was like. I have gone back to Rosetta Stone several times since. So I will say Rosetta Stone might be more valuable to me learning Korean than Pimsleur, but I'm really not sure. I don't remember. Sorry. Third step, I got in a classroom, okay? I'm the kind of person who learns best with a teacher. I need a person to explain to me why, how, where, who, what, like all the things. I need somebody in there with me that I can ask questions to, because every person is different, right? And so the teacher might be anticipating the problems you might have when they write a textbook. But however, they can't anticipate every single individual and each person's unique set of complications that they might have with learning a language. And you can't ask a textbook a question, right? If there's something you don't understand, I'm sure it explains it to the best of its ability, but it is words on a page. You can't ask it for help. So that's why it was really important to me to get in a classroom, to find an instructor who can teach me. I literally went back to university just so I could learn Korean, because let me tell you, I wasn't trying to go to university. I was not trying to graduate, did not care about school. But at the time I cared about learning Korean, and my Korean American friends were not being helpful. That's okay. That's not what they're there for. They're supposed to be my friends, not my teachers. It's not their problem that I can't speak Korean, that they don't be wanting to talk with me anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not their problem. That's my problem. So I needed a teacher. I went back to university just so I could learn in a classroom setting and be taught. And that was step 3. But step 4 is where you need to start applying those things to real life. Now, this is the hardest step and the most important. It doesn't matter that all you know how to say is, you know, please give me this in Korean, okay? Every time you go to a Korean restaurant, say it. Every time, till it's second nature to you. Until you can start actually learning the names of the food. Until you can start saying it differently, saying it, you know, a little fancy, okay? Say it every time you go to the restaurant. You know, when you go to the convenience store, you know, and there's a Korean person behind the counter. Doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. If you know they're Korean, now don't say it if it's a Chinese person behind the counter. Then you look racist. So you first gotta verify that that person is Korean. And then every time you enter, you say 안녕하세요 when you walk in the door. And you say 이거 얼마예요? How much is this? Every time that you need to ask for a price. And when you get done through the checkout, you say 감사합니다, 안녕히 계세요 when you leave, okay? You gotta practice until those words come out freely, like second nature, like they are natural to say. Like, that's how you gotta practice if you want to sound fluent, okay? And finally, the final step to obtaining fluency, the part that I have not quite mastered yet, but I know what I have to do to get there, is keep challenging yourself. So, for sure you know how to ask for things, you know how to you know, say hello, goodbye. You know how to. But you also know what situations you've been in where you didn't know how to say, how to communicate, whatever. Then you go home and you look it up and you study it. And then you go back and put yourself in that situation again so that you can use it. Okay, now I get that that is super duper awkward, and not every time can you predict when you can be in that situation again. For example, at the doctor's office, obviously you can't predict the next time you're going to need to go to the ER, okay? So maybe you don't memorize the word for ER, but maybe you do, you know? So that the next time you get into a Korean taxi, you can be like, take me to the ER, and say it confidently, okay? So I just wanted to finally make this video trying to teach you guys how you can be fluent too, and you can at the very least, if you're not actually fluent, you can convince people that you're fluent by learning a good amount. Right? Now this was pretty specific to Korean, but once again, a lot of these tips I think can be applied to other languages if you try. Also noticed that a lot of the last steps required me to be in and around Korean people, Korean society, Korea. So, you know, if you're learning Spanish, you might want to take a trip to a Spanish-speaking country, you know? There's a giant continent called South America, full of them, full of those Spanish-speaking countries. If you want to learn Japanese, you probably want to take a trip to Japan. It's literally a useless skill if you never take a trip to Japan. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you learning Japanese? Just so you can watch anime in the original language? Like, it's a pretty useless skill unless you go to Japan. So, you know, just keeping that out there. Just want to put that into the world as well, that if you so choose to follow all these steps so that you can become fluent in a foreign language or a second language, you should go to the country where they speak that. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you liked it. I hope you found something useful in there. You know, I try, and really, I feel really awkward right now because, like, I've been stuck inside my house all day for 2 days in a row, and it's a lot. I really need to go outside. I need to go outside. Coronavirus is stupid. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. So, bye.